So whatever, right? We're in the halfway through our sermon series, whatever. So when we say whatever, not necessarily a good thing most of the time. Jesus said whatever, I think like 34 times. We're looking at 5 of them. We've already looked at 2. We got 1 today, and we got 2 more in the next 2 weeks. Now, when Jesus says whatever, it's a totally different way. He's like, whatever it takes. Whatever is right. The first week, Jesus said, whatever you ask for. So we talked about prayer. Last week, we talked about how to use good words. Next week, we're going to look at a phrase. Jesus says, whatever it is, whatever it is that hurts, your disease, your dysfunction, whatever it is, bring it to me, and I will make you well. So next week is for all of us hurting people. Maybe it's a physical thing, maybe it's a relational thing, maybe it's a spiritual thing. Jesus says, whatever it is, come to me, and I'll make you well. And then the last week, we're going to look at a thing called humility. Humility is something the world needs. It desperately needs. Humility is something most of us, I know I need it. So Jesus tells this story about, and we're going to look at this story, about this person that goes and he sits at the table, and he just says, whatever seat's open, just take it. Don't worry about where you sit. Don't worry about where you stand in line. Just whatever seat's available, just take it. So we'll look at that one the last week. Today we're going to look at respect. We're going to talk about respecting others. We're going to talk about respecting yourself. So my 11-year-old son, David, had a basketball game last night. Now, if you want to know how he did, just come and see me after church. I'll tell you. If you don't want to know, they won 27-16, and he had all these rebounds. It was really cool. So they're 5th graders. Now, one of the things that amazes me about sports is the way that people treat the officials. It just amazes me. Here's 2 guys out there. They're probably both in their 30s, maybe early 40s or something like that. They seem like they're very good men. They're there because they love the sport. They're there because, they like kids. They want to see them grow into. They're not getting together before the game saying, it'd be really cool if the 2 of us could change the outcome of this game. And if we could have Bellevue beat Millard West, wouldn't that be really cool if we could pull that off between the 2 of us? No, they're trying to do their best, right? So last night, it did not disappoint. The parents, some of the parents, the 5th grade, it's not the NBA Finals, and even if it was the NBA Finals, there's still a certain amount of respect that needs to happen. The grandparents, the coaches, there's one, it was actually the other team's coach, but man, he had words. There's people that were at the game, and he had words with the referee at halftime, there was a heated discussion. One of the players even got talked to by the official. Every time a call didn't go his way, he just threw his hands up in the air, and he was complaining, and I was thinking, for this kid, he's 11 years old. This is how he respects. So what happens when he turns to be 16 or 17 and all of a sudden he's driving a car? If he treats the official this way in public, how's he going to treat the person that cuts him off? How's he going to treat the person that makes a mistake and almost hits him? Later in life, how's he going to treat his boss? And if he is the boss, how's he going to treat his customers when things don't quite go his way? There is a minimum level of respect that we need to treat everybody with. Have you guys ever watched rugby before? So it's not really much of an American thing. I don't understand it when I watch it. But in rugby, from what I understand, in rugby, the players are not allowed to engage with the officials. If you do, the official sends you off for 10 minutes. The coaches are not allowed to engage with the official. If they do, they watch the rest of the game from the locker room. There's only one person that's allowed to engage the official, and it's the team captain. And when he engages the official, he has to call him sir. So if you go to the referee, you go sir. And you don't make a statement, you ask a question. Can you explain that call to me? That's how it works. So in rugby, what goes on here is, wins and losses matter. They care just as much as the 5th grade basketball players and the parents and the grandparents and the coaches. They want to win. But their understanding is that there's things more important than winning and losing. Things like self-control, things like character, things like integrity, things like respect. Those are elevated above the wins and the losses. Now, you want to win and lose just as much as, the way some other sports do it. But they're saying, there's something. And in life, there's going to be things more important than winning and losing. Things like character, integrity, and respect, the way that you do it. So let's just play a little game here. Guess who was president of the United States when I was a high schooler? And don't say like John Kennedy or something like that. Okay, I was hoping someone would say like Barack Obama or like I would have settled for Bill Clinton, but it was Ronald Reagan. So when Ronald Reagan was president, who was Speaker of the House? Tip O'Neill. Good, you guys are good. So Tip O'Neill was a liberal Democrat from Massachusetts. Ronald Reagan was a conservative Republican from California. Now, these two guys didn't agree on stuff. They didn't agree on how money should be spent. They didn't agree on taxes. They didn't agree on domestic policy. They didn't agree on foreign policy. But you know what? They were friends. Tip O'Neill said when it turned 6 o'clock, we're buddies. So when Tip O'Neill retired, guess who he asked to give the last roast and the last speech about him? Yeah, it wasn't some obscure representative from Ohio. It was Ronald Reagan. So one friend, another friend, going back and forth. They didn't agree on stuff, but they respected each other. We've come a long way. We've come a long way in 30 years. We just have. You can say the technology's been the biggest change. I don't think it is. I think it's the way we treat each other. Now, Jesus, he talked about respect. This is an issue today in 2018 in the United States. This was an issue in the Middle East at the time of Christ 2,000 years ago. So here, Jesus says, do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and the prophets. So take the law, the first 5 books of the Bible, you take the prophets, probably about 16 or 17 of those books Jesus would have been referring to. So you take most of the Old Testament. Jesus says you can pretty much sum it into like this one little thing. Treat other people in the way that you want to be treated. Talk to them like you want to be spoken to. Serve them like you want to be served. Respect them like you want to be respected. Now, here's how we go about doing this. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't know this morning. You're not going to leave and say, aha, that was just this brilliant insight that I've never heard of before. And the reason why is because you know how you want to be treated. Now, I'll try to put some stuff systematically in a way that makes sense that will help us move forward and respecting all people. But I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't know this morning because you already know how you want to be treated. And Jesus says that in the same way that you want to be treated, this is how we need to treat other people. So number 1 is listen well. So have you ever had a conversation with anyone before that just, they over-talk and they don't listen? Just a show of hands. You've had a conversation before with someone. Isn't that the most excruciating experience in the world? Wouldn't you rather beat your head against a wall than be in a conversation with someone that's not listening to you? Yeah, welcome to my world. Just teasing. So let's go to the Bible. You must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. So, gosh, does anyone else look at this verse and think, man, if I would read this, memorize it, and apply it to my daily life, this would save me a lot of trouble? So be quick to, slow to, and slow to get. Gosh, man, if we could pull that off, our life would be different. It's you listen well. So here's how you listen well. You actively listen. You don't think about your response. When someone's talking, you're not, formulating your response. You're seeking to understand them. There's a huge difference. You ask clarifying questions. You can reiterate what's said just so you're spot on with what they're saying. Make your aim to understand the other person, because your eagerness to understand another person demonstrates one of the highest forms of respect. So let me give you this one first. Don't listen to respond then. This one's going to help your relationships a ton. Don't listen to respond, listen to understand. Listen to understand. So this week I was at a clergy conference in Kearney. So I was gone from Tuesday night until like Friday afternoon, and we go to one of these every year, and they bring in some really cool speakers. We go to become better pastors. The speakers were great. I learned a lot. Excited to start doing some of these learnings. But the best time I had there was not listening to the speakers. The best time I had there, the most helpful thing to me, is when I sat down with an old friend that I've known for over a decade. He's about 20 years older than me. He's always been in smaller churches, kind of in central and western Nebraska. He sought me out. Craig, how's it going? He's so excited about our project. He's like, you want to sit down and talk? And this guy has always, the reason I love to talk to him is he's one of the best listeners I know. He just sat me down and just listened to me for 30 minutes. He listened to my fears. He listened to my hopes, my dreams. He listened to what I'm going through. And we live in this world where we try to fix people. We try to give advice. You should do this. You shouldn't do that. But he gave me exactly what I needed, not advice. He gave me understanding. We live in this fix-it, do better production world. But God has wired us and created us to be understood fully by other people. Now, the production and the advice and the fix-it stuff, it gets in the way of listening to understand. I'll say this. Here's the encouragement. Last week, I told you to go out and make somebody's day by the words that you speak. I know many of you did that. This week, I want us to go out and give the gift of understanding to another person. Listen to their story. Listen to their failures. Listen to their successes. Be their comfort. Be their cheerleader. Give somebody the gift that we all need, and that's the gift of understanding. Now, number 2, speak good words. I did a whole sermon on this last week. Not going to spend a lot of time here this morning. I do want to talk about it a little bit. Not everyone was here last week, and if you were here, not everybody paid attention last week, so I'll give you a Cliff Notes version of it. So every person that you talk to is a child of God. There are no exceptions to that rule. You got that? Everyone you talk to is a child of God, and we need to start speaking to everybody like that. We really do. Listen to this one. When people treat you well and are kind to you and say good words to you, we treat them well, we're kind to them, and we speak good words to them. Now, that's not always going to happen. So when people don't treat you so kindly, when the words aren't so nice, what we get to do? We get to treat them kindly and speak nice words, because their words describe and define them. Our words describe and define us. Let's not base our words upon the character of other people. Let's base our words on our own character and our own integrity. Jesus says, the words you say will either acquit you or they will condemn you. And Jesus speaks truth all the time, and this one is no exception. And he's right, and you all know he's right, because the words we speak, they define us and they describe us. They'll either condemn us or they'll acquit us. People listen to the words that you say. Your kids listen to the words that you say. Your coworkers listen to the words that you say. And these words are words that are going to describe us and they're going to define us. Now, it's simple. Speak to others in the way that you want to be spoken to. Be quick to give a compliment and encouragement. Be generous with good words. If someone's hurting, offer them words of comfort. If there's a confrontation that needs to happen, we all live in relationships, and conflict happens in every relationship. And when a confrontation needs to happen, that's fine. Just confront in love, and confront with tons of grace, and confront with like some solutions on how to move forward. You can confront in loving ways, and conflict is resolved every day, and people move forward, and it's beautiful and it's awesome. Now, words have the energy to hurt and the power to heal, to hinder, to humiliate, to humble, and to help. So what we do is we listen to understand, and we respect people with the good words that we use. Now, number 3, we serve unselfishly. So listening matters, words matter, but I would say that what matters even more is our actions. You've heard this stuff before, the cliches, talk is cheap, whatever they are. Actions matter, like be compassionate. So treat others in the way that you want to be treated. You want to be treated with compassion, so we give compassion to others. Here's some things, like do the things that nobody else is willing or wanting to do. Just do those things. If the trash isn't, if you live in like my house, like it just kind of like goes up and it goes up, and then you can like push it down, and then like someone else is there. No, just take the trash out to the garage. Like, do the things that nobody else wants to do. Do things in private. Do things in secret. We're not serving others to get a reward. Our actual serving others is the grace itself, the opportunity to engage with another person. So here's how this works. Paul says in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, he says, share each other's burdens, and when you do this, you will fulfill the law of Christ. So people in Methodism, especially in the Midwest, are really curious about our church. So when I go to conferences like I went to this week, people ask about it. Like, I hear about these small groups, or, what is it that makes it work? And my answer is simple. It's up on the screen. The church at its best is a community of people. They're going to share each other's burdens and fulfill the law of Christ of treating others like we want to be treated, of loving God with all our heart and soul and mind and strength, and loving others as ourselves. So let's go to our cabinet thing yesterday. We had like 15 people out there putting these cabinets in. Like, this is not 15 men and some women putting in some cabinets. There's ministry going on here, but these cabinets are going to be in there now. And like in 8 weeks, there's going to be some teachers that walk into these classrooms, and in these cabinets, there's going to be some sheets and some crafts and some supplies, and they'll open these things, and they're there. And these 4th grade kids and these kindergartners and these 3-year-olds and these 2nd graders, they're going to learn about Jesus Christ. They're going to learn about Jesus Christ better because these men made this investment of time yesterday, knowing that we can bear each other's burdens and fulfill the law of Christ. Now, I think the best way that we've seen this in our history is in the life of small groups. Now, we've been around for over 10 years. There's over 1,000 of us nowadays that would call our church their home. So you know that like bad things have had to happen, and people have died. There's been people that get cancer. Marriages have ended. Relationships between parents and kids have been tough. People have gone through financial troubles. I mean, this is part of life. It's normal. It's natural. But to me, probably the most beautiful part of our church is when I see a group of ordinary people surrounding a hurting person, and God doing really extraordinary things. Some of you have felt the support. Some of you have given this support. And what you're doing is you're serving. You're bearing each other's burdens and fulfilling the law of Christ. Like when this group goes to Belize, they're helping people that cannot help them back in return. When you give money, you're providing medicine for someone that you will never know. But what we're doing is we're bearing each other's burdens and fulfilling the law of Christ. We have a guy that told me a really cool story a couple months ago. He was at Walmart, and there was this woman that got out of her car. She had like 2 or 3 kids. He said she just looked overextended. She looked overwhelmed. Like he noticed that the tires on her car, and this is like October, November, were totally bald. He didn't perceive that this was going to be in her budget. So you know what he did? Like he put a note on her car. And he says, hey, I noticed your tires were bald. I saw you walking into the store with your kids, and I want you to go to this tire store. I want you to talk to this person, and they're going to give you some new tires. So what he did is he went to the store. He talked to his friend. He said, whatever it is, whatever. Send me the bill, and I'll pay for it. Isn't that so cool? Whatever it takes. Bearing each other's burdens and fulfilling the law. We have a woman in the church. This is so cool. She's a professional photographer. So what she'll do is she'll go to hospitals after babies are born. These are babies where there's serious and critical illnesses. And she'll use her gift of photography to take pictures for these little ones that may not live. So the parents will always have something to remember. Bearing each other's burdens and fulfilling the law of Christ. I had a guy. He came to me about 10 years ago. He said, hey, Craig, I want to start mowing your lawn every week. And he's retired at the time. I don't know if he's looking for a part-time job or what. But then he said, you got 2 little kids, and they were little at the time. He says, I want you to not work for those 2 hours each week. I want you to spend that time, those 2 hours, with the 2 boys. Now, I love to let people use their spiritual gifts, and I let him do this. So I remember the first time I did it was 100 degrees outside. It was hot. And me and David and Benjamin were actually at the swimming pool across the street. He comes and he starts mowing, and I think, okay, this has got incident written all over it. Good Samaritan keels over, mowing pastor's lawn. Pastor was across the street with his boys swimming at the pool. Now, he did this for probably about 6 or 7 years. I'm doing it again now, so if any of you are looking for an opportunity to serve, I still got 2 kids that I can spend some time with. But I thought about it. I was thinking about it this week, 7 years, probably 35 times, 2 hours. You do the math. This man allowed me to spend days, literally days, with my kids that normally I would have been mowing the grass, bearing each other's burdens and fulfilling the law of Christ. That's how this stuff works. So love others actively and practically in ways that are most meaningful to them. So you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. We most look like Jesus when we serve. So we listen, we speak good words, we serve. Number 4 is we keep our commitments. So commitment means you do what you say you're going to do. Life may change, your motivations may change, but you made a promise, somebody else has planned based upon that promise. So what you do is you keep your promise. So the Proverbs chapter 25 says, like billowing clouds that bring no rain is the person who talks big but never produces. Don't be that cloud that doesn't produce. If you're saying you're going to do something, do it. So I was thinking about this one. We had 2 families that moved away 2.5 years ago or so. They went through our From the Ground Up capital campaign. They both made very significant contributions. Now one of them was a retired couple. They moved down to Florida because their children and grandchildren had moved to Florida. So within 6 months of the campaign starting, they left. Another family was a lot younger. They got a job out in central Nebraska. They were only here for probably about 6 to 9 months of the campaign. And so I think it would have been easy for them to say, Craig, we're moving on. We did make this pledge, but we're going to be at a new church and we're going to support them. We'd love it if we could have stayed around and enjoyed the building. But they didn't do that. One of them actually drove here on the groundbreaking Sunday and gave me a very large check. And they said, we promised you 2 years ago we're going to give you this, and here it is. We can't wait to come back and see this thing finished. The other couple in Florida, they were a little bit further away. They mailed it in 3 installments. They said, we made that promise. We're going to keep it. Now, here's how this works, okay? Look up at the screen. Commitment means doing what you said you're going to do, even if your circumstances have changed and the mood you set it in has left you. So commitment says, okay, you made a promise, like you don't feel that promise anymore, maybe some things have changed, but you made your promise, you're going to keep your promise, and that's respecting another person. Because there's people that have made plans based upon your promise, and you owe it to them to keep your commitment. Now, number 5, do kindness always. So not when it's easy, do kindness always. Value other people more than your need to be right. Resolve conflict that naturally happens with patience and humility. Live out this belief that there is never a wrong time to do the kind thing. Live that one out. So Paul says in Ephesians, instead, be kind to each other. And I want you to know this, like, kindness is not a weakness. Kindness is strength. The kindest people I know are also the strongest people that I know. And you know there's a difference between being kind and being polite. Being polite means that you're taught to live by a certain set of cultures and mores and norms and all that kind of stuff. And you do those things because society says you should do those things. Kindness, it comes from inside. It's the overflow. God has blessed me so much, and how can I not share that blessing with other people? Jesus, he teaches me this really cool stuff, and one of the things that he teaches me is to treat other people like I would like to be treated, and I believe that when I live this way, my life is going to make the most sense. Kindness, what it does is it starts in our heart, and it goes to and it's transferred to the heart of another person. So I got this dog, Esther. Esther's a big dog. Esther weighs legit 160 pounds. So some people mistake her for a bear, and I can see where that would happen. So Esther is a 4-year-old Newfoundland. She's a water rescue dog. They got these web feet, the Newfoundlands do, and her paw is about the size of my hand. It's got this little thing, and if you've ever seen a Newfoundland swim, it's like one of life's pure joys. Like, they can swim faster than people can because they got 4 of those they get going. And so Esther likes cold weather. The only person in our family that does. And she likes going for walks in cold weather, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is. So it's 9:30 at night. It's like one of those days, like recently it's like minus 12 and the wind's blowing, but the dog needs to go. So I take the dog for a walk. So I get all bundled up. Esther's out there just in her black fur, and there's a house like 4 houses down from us that has this little dog, little white dog that weighs about 6 pounds. Now, I don't know what happened. They let the dog out to go to the bathroom, and then the dog sees Esther. The bathroom becomes less appealing. All of a sudden, like, she's trying to like provoke this big dog, which I don't know why. I mean, it'd be like me, like, challenging John Cena to a fight. I lose that one like 9 times out of 10. So this little dog is in the street, like barking at Esther. Esther is like trying to get the little dog. Now all of a sudden, there's a car that's starting to come down the road. Now, I don't like this little dog. This little dog's been a thorn in my side, and maybe there's a way I can get rid of this little dog. But I didn't do that because I know that there's people that love that little dog. So I didn't think the car was going to see the little dog. I didn't think the car was going to see the big dog because the big dog's black. So I actually got out in the middle of the street because I knew the car wouldn't run me over, or at least I was hoping that wouldn't be the case. Now this car was all mad at me. Like, they're honking. They're wanting me to get out of the middle of the road. And I'm trying to like figure out what the heck to do. All of a sudden the owner comes running out. He gets a little dog. So now the car driver is mad at me. For some reason, the owner of the little dog is all upset with me that I just like saved his little dog's life. Maybe he didn't want the little dog to live anymore. Still trying to figure out why he's upset with me. But the person in the car, they eventually got home. Like, they had to wait about a minute. The little dog, he got safely nestled inside. The big dog still had to walk like 6 miles around the neighborhood and go to the bathroom. But here's the deal. Like, this is a silly little story about a pastor and a dog. But sometimes being kind is not the easy thing to do. And sometimes being kind is not the popular thing to do. But you do it anyway. Because you treat other people like you want to be treated. Embrace this belief that there is never a wrong time to do the kind thing. There's never a wrong time to do the kind thing. So this respect stuff, it's critical. It's the golden rule. It's what Jesus says Much of the Old Testament just comes down to this, like treat others like you want to be treated. Listen to them, like listen to understand. Give them the gift that they need, the gift that they are understood by another human being. Speak good words, speak kind words. That critical stuff, just get rid of it. You don't need it. Love people, serve them unconditionally. Be creative about it. Be relentless. Keep your commitments. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And then be kind. Know that there's never a wrong time to do the kind thing. So let's pray.